This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We're being hunted.
Jewish Americans, this president has your back.
Distracted driving, they don't think is that bad. Everybody thinks they can multitask behind the wheel.
We have spent $3 trillion since 1980 on education in our country, and our scores have continued to go down.
The way I landed, I must have an angel looking over me.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. It is the weather we've been waiting for.
It's nice not to have rain, and we're dry and soaking in the sun.
Yeah, I got tired of sitting in the house going stir crazy.
It is already 80 degrees out there and we're heading for 87 tomorrow. But as the sun moves in, so does Canadian wildfire smoke. Millions in the Midwest are under alerts today as the sky turns orange. This man in Minnesota.
You feel like something is in your throat.
No alerts yet here, but people in Buffalo say they can smell it.
A couple years ago it came in and I knew I was a little trouble breathing in that. I did notice this morning the east sky was pretty hazy. Made great sunsets, but it was really hazy.
That's our breathing air. You know, I don't want to be breathing in on smoke and stuff like that. We have kids.
That smoke is expected to shift over us Wednesday and a little bit of Thursday. Pennsylvania's new distracted driving law kicks in less than 36 hours. If you touch your phone while behind the wheel, even at a stoplight, you could face a fine.
I think there's a lot of people, I don't want to be told what to do in my car. You know, it's my car. Distracted driving, they don't think is that bad. Everybody thinks they can multitask behind the wheel.
The bill is named for Paul Miller, the 21-year-old who lost his life 15 years ago to a driver using their cell phone. His mother, Eileen Miller, told the story to ABC 27.
I wanted to go view him, and they were like, no, you cannot view him. He's that bad. Finally, I did go down, and they had him on a table, and he was in a body bag, and I absolutely could not tell that that was my child.
Miller says a single second on your phone can take a life.
The day before, he walked out the door and he kissed me and hugged me and told me he loved me. And the next day, he was in a million pieces. So I whispered in his ear, I said, Paul, I don't know what caused this crash, but I will find out. And when I do, I will make change. There is no reason why somebody should be killed like that, where you can't even identify your child. And I made that promise to him right there at the morgue.
Promise kept. We signed into law, but it takes effect on Thursday. How does that feel?
I have moments where I'm crying because I'm finally here, but it was one heck of a long ride to get common sense legislation that I didn't expect.
If you're caught in the Keystone State, it'll be a $50 fine as of Thursday. The wife and 5 kids of the immigrant who allegedly firebombed a dozen Jewish protesters in Colorado are now in police custody today as well. Mohammed Solomon facing federal charges. Law professor John Yu tells Fox News.
Both governments should be throwing the book at this guy. He should never see the light of day again. If anyone ultimately dies from the attack, he should be subjected to the death penalty. Both the state of Colorado and the federal government are both allowed to charge him with crimes.
Solomon accused of using a homemade flamethrower to torch a crowd of Jewish protesters. This man was there.
We as Jews, we're being hunted.
He says it's a pattern against Jews nationwide, including Josh Shapiro's mansion in Pennsylvania.
It was already proven when the 2 young people were killed in D.C. or the governor's home was burned. We're being hunted. People have asked me today, would you continue to go out? I don't know.
Many members of the media leaving out the detail that the man was an illegal immigrant from Egypt. Democratic strategist Julian Epstein told MSNBC today that's a huge mistake.
You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that when a terrorist says free Palestine and sets a bunch of Jews on fire, including an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, you don't have to be a Sherlock Holmes to know that's terrorism. But this is part of the larger malaise. This is part of the fact that the media is mostly turning a blind eye to what's going on. This should be a wake-up call in the West.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt unabashedly addressed anti-Semitism this afternoon.
To Jewish Americans at home, across the country, this president has your back.
President Trump is considering fining the state of California for breaking federal law and allowing a transgender athlete to compete in girls' sports. Julie Hamill heads the California Justice Center.
It's an indication that we're about to see some heavy artillery from the DOJ drop in California. We have to have federal enforcement. The state's not going to do it on its own.
Hamill says she's not just anticipating fines, but also a full Department of Justice investigation.
It's always a good thing when Donald Trump himself says something, because that means there's going to be swift action.
That biological male won 3 medals in last weekend's girls' state track and field championships. 2 of them were first place. There was a bit of sparring over the future of U.S. education before the Senate today. Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed.
You're shrinking educational opportunity in the United States for a whole generation and more.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon stood before lawmakers defending moves to cut the department.
We have spent $3 trillion since 1980 on education in our country when this department was set up, and our scores have continued to go down. We are not doing something right.
The Senate is taking a peek at President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Republican Rand Paul vocal that he is not on board because of the cost. CBS's Caitlin Huey-Burns.
Talking to sources up here, they're kind of banking on Rand Paul not changing his mind. They actually really don't need him. They need to focus on just shoring up the other Republicans, and that's kind of where the strategy will be.
A cup of coffee in the morning could help women stay healthy as they get older. Researchers at Harvard University followed a group of 50,000 women for 30 years. They found drinking coffee every morning helped improve mental and physical fitness later in life. Decaf coffee and tea did not have the same effect. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, details on the arrival of Canadian wildfire smoke, prison guards fight back, and the glider that landed on a high school athletic field in Pennsylvania Monday. Those stories after weather with Ken McKinley.
Quiet night tonight. Temperatures won't be as cool as the past several nights have been. And tomorrow, again, a good deal of sunshine and warm temperatures. In fact, warmer than today in most areas. We'll then be watching a cold front, which will drop very slowly south toward the area as we head through tomorrow night and Thursday. That'll bring some clouds into the area and eventually some showers, perhaps a few thunder showers as well. That'll mean the temperatures on Thursday not quite as warm as we'll see tomorrow. Tomorrow's readings will be well into the 80s. But even with the clouds and showers, temperatures on Thursday will be well into the 70s and perhaps into the low 80s in some locations.
Thank you, Ken. Check in the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. We've got some more details on that Canadian wildfire smoke on the way. WSYR meteorologist Kate Thornton in Syracuse.
You may notice more of a haze than anything, not expected to be like how it was 2 years ago, but it could impact the air quality moderate. It should be still less than 100, the AQI, which is okay. We can handle that. It's if it gets over 100, that could be some issues for us.
Wind should push the thickest smoke east of us tomorrow and Thursday. Governor Kathy Hochul has a challenger. Antonio Delgado, a Hudson Valley Democrat, released a campaign commercial yesterday.
Listen, the powerful and well-connected have their champions. I'm running for governor to be yours.
He's been hinting at a primary challenge ever since announcing in February that he was parting ways with Hochul.
Our status quo is broken. We need to be doing more to speak to people's economic pain.
Delgado served in Congress before becoming lieutenant governor. He and the governor have been at odds for several months. Governor Hochul is facing a class action lawsuit from fired corrections officers. The prison guards are asking for their jobs back as well as back pay. They say they were unlawfully terminated for protesting working conditions during a 3-week prison strike in February and March. U.S. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania is ripping into his own party, the Democratic Party, over its handling of the border when they were in power in Washington, D.C.
Our party did not handle the border appropriately. Look at the numbers. 300,000 people showing up at our border. That's unacceptable, and that's national security issue, and that's chaos.
From 2021 to 2023, 7.5 million people crossed the southern border illegally into this country. Fetterman says he supports the $150 billion earmarked in the Trump budget to fund border enforcement efforts. Pennsylvania pediatricians are touting a MAHA report out about America's health crisis for children. It cited an increased incidence in obesity, diabetes, mental health issues, allergies, and childhood cancer.
We are seeing a rise in childhood obesity. That rise continues
continues to be exponential. Suicide is a leading cause of death in children, is one of the leading causes of death in children, and it's getting to be a younger and younger age.
However, other Keystone State doctors were critical of the administration, citing environmental causes for the illnesses and then cutting funding to the EPA. And not a surprise at all to use the Tunkhannock School District athletic field for athletic games, but on Monday afternoon it was used as a runway after a glider pilot missed an updraft needed to make it back home to Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. The glider pilot made an emergency landing without injury, his plane intact and no one hurt, but the FAA is looking into the mishap. Next at 5, music to minister. Our own Mark Webster has this week's Hometown Hero. Let's listen in.
Making a difference with music. That's the goal of Bridge Studios in Titusville, a nonprofit that offers affordable music instruction and much more to the Pennsylvania community. On today's edition of Hometown Heroes, we hear from co-founder David Southwick, who says he wasn't looking to form a nonprofit, but then God had other plans.
I was at a place where I was kind of like, what do I need to do to supplement my income? And doing a lot of praying and searching, and this concept popped into my head. Our mission statement is connecting people to purpose through music. Our first lesson started in November of 2020, and since then we've done almost 15,000 lessons. We've had anywhere up to 11 or 12 instructors at one time. Right now we're down to 8. 4 of those are student instructors, and a number of our students have done all kinds of performances. Some of them are in bands that we've created, and we have several performances coming up this summer. We have a summer music camp for 8 to 10-year-olds. It's just kind of what can you think about with music and see if we can do it with them.
So you've grown this to where you have, like you mentioned, a summer camp and all of that, and you really touched on a very key point. Kids these days are subjected to so many negative things, so just being that one positive voice or one positive small part of their life with music really can be huge.
It is. I mean, there's all kinds of scientific studies about just what music itself does when someone is learning music. So you have that, and then plus just the soul level of how it can be used to reduce depression, anger, anxiety, and physical pain, honestly. You find out, you know what, God really loves people, and you get to be a part of that. If I was working in a newspaper, if I was working in a fast food place, wherever I was working, you know what, if Jesus is in me, then I'm letting his kingdom flow through me in whatever way, shape, or form he could do it.
That's David Southwick, co-founder of Bridge Studios, a nonprofit bringing affordable music instruction and a lot more to Titusville, Pennsylvania. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
You can subscribe, listen to, and share Hometown Heroes and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org.
We should respect other people's property and be freely generous with our own. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. In the 10 Commandments we read, "You shall not steal." We should never take from others, and we should treat their possessions with great care and respect. As for our own things, we should be open-handed, especially in regard to our brothers and sisters in Christ, inspired by Acts 2:45. That verse says the believers sold their possessions and goods and distributed them to all, as any had need. Of course, we're called to be wise in our giving, not enabling poor stewardship, but our default posture should always be, Lord, how can I use what you've given me to bless others? Because living generously with what we have reflects God's heart to the world around us. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith Fi community. Download Faith Fi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, we'll tell you what you get when you mix a road, an alligator, and 2 motorcyclists after one last look at weather.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley with our Family Life forecast. After a very pleasant day today, we'll have a quiet night tonight. Temperatures won't be as cool as the past several nights have been. And tomorrow, again, a good deal of sunshine and warm temperatures. In fact, warmer than today in most areas. We'll then be watching a cold front, which will drop very slowly south toward the area as we head through tomorrow night and Thursday. That'll bring some clouds into the area and eventually some showers, perhaps a few thunder showers as well. That'll mean the temperatures on Thursday not quite as warm as we'll see tomorrow. Tomorrow's readings will be well into the 80s. But even with the clouds and showers, temperatures on Thursday will be well well into the 70s and perhaps into the low 80s in some locations.
Thank you, Ken. Finally, at 5, why did the 6-foot alligator cross the road? That's what 2 motorcyclists are contemplating from their hospital beds after running into the reptile on a Florida highway. Cameron Gilmore and Brandy Gross tell WOFL.
I said, "Help me, Jesus." Just kept flipping. I'm like, when is this going to stop? And then I start sliding. I'm like, when is this going to stop?
The impact happened. I flipped over, and the way I landed, I must have an angel looking over me or something. I just wasn't expecting a gator to be in the middle of the road right there.
Along with broken bones and scars, the pair earned a unique story to tell their fellow bikers, along with some new nicknames.
They're calling me Gator Gilmore.
They call me Gator Ninja because I was on a Ninja 650. So
that gator survived. The humans, though, were a little worse for wear. And that's the world that we live in for Tuesday, the 3rd of June. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.